welcome to Perspective. National Accountability Bureau has been a bone of contention between the government and the opposition from the point go. Of course, there's been it's been controversial from the very beginning, with the opposition saying that the government is somehow in cahoots with the National Accountability Bureau, with the government coming back and saying, well, you know, it's an independent organization, all of that, with the Supreme Court giving its remarks now and again on the National Accountability Bureau again. Now, of course, 2 weeks to the appointment of the new National Accountability Chairman. What kind of what can we expect in the next couple of weeks as far as the government is concerned? Of course, there are reports that the government plans to bring another amendment in the NAB law. Whether that will actually happen, what does the government propose to do? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the role of the opposition, and of course the fact that the government has categorically said that they will not be taking the leader of the opposition's opinion on board, consultation, so to speak, on whether who will be the next chairman of NAB. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the fact that, of course, the opposition and the government, if they can't come to some sort of agreement on such an integral issue, what kind of politics can we expect till the next coming elections? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Ahmed Jawad, who is Central Secretary Information, PTI. Thank you for joining us today. Senator Afnanullah Khan with the PMLN, thank you for being with us. And we have Faisal Kareem Kunti, who's Senior Leader PPP, on the phone. Thank you for joining us. Jawad Sahab, like I said, the issue of, it's not new, and we've had this discussion before also, time and again, I would say, as far as NAB is concerned. And, even the day before yesterday, we saw Maryam Nawaz come out and lash out at NAB. She was talking about the fact how, everything that has happened so far is basically NAB acting at the behest of the government. What will happen now as far as the appointment of the new NAB chairman is concerned? Do you think, of course there are reports that there will be an ordinance, but what does the government propose to do? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Mahrukh, first of all, the change of Chairman NAB or the extension of Chairman NAB, whatever happens, it has to be according to the Constitution. Whether there is an amendment, whether there is an ordinance, whatever has to be done, it has to be according to law. It is not that government wishes and it would happen.
But according to the Constitution, there has to be meaningful consultation, which is what the law, as interpreted by the Supreme Court also, as far with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition.
Yeah. So that is why I said that whether the government intends to bring some change, some amendment into this law, or the government wants to bring this change through an ordinance, in both cases, it is a lawful process by any government to make such decisions. Secondly, why government is considering extension of Chairman NAB, I think one of the reason is that consultation with the opposition, when the leader of the opposition and the main opposition leaders like Mia Nawaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz and other leadership, they are directly under the cases of NAB. So it's kind of a conflict of interest that you have to consult a person who is already under the cases of NAB, and he has to decide about the chairman of the NAB. So it's a tricky situation, and this is one of the reasons the government is considering the extension of the present chairman NAB.
Right. It's interesting that you've mentioned conflict of interest, because according to the government, they say, according to the opposition, they say that as far as the government is concerned, they believe that there is some sort of, what would be the right word? I don't know. Like I said, that the NAB in this case is acting at the behest of the government, and that is a conflict of interest when you talk about extension coming from the Prime Minister itself.
Why?
So I will ask you this, but I want to move on and go to Senator Afnanullah Khan. Ji, Senator Saab, are you with us? Ji, can you hear me? Right, I hope you're muted. Can you please unmute yourself? Okay. So there is, I hope that you've been following our discussion. There has been talk of conflict of interest. Your party maintains that there is conflict of interest because the government, according to you, the NAB is acting at the behest of the government, and therefore they are in fact one party, and therefore it's a conflict of interest. According to Jawad Saab, he's saying that there is a conflict of interest that you and all the main leaders of the PMLN are in fact implicated in different investigations with the NAB. So consulting with Shehbaz Sharif Saab would then make it a conflict of interest. What do you say to that?
What I say to this is that there are numerous corruption cases against the PTI leadership as well. I mean, the Malam Jabba case, the Peshawar BRT case, the sugar scam, the wheat scam, and there are a lot of cases that we don't know because they are in government right now. So I think the fear over here is that Imran Khan knows the skeleton that he has in his closet. And he doesn't want anyone to become a NAB chairman who is not under fully control of the government. And this existing NAB chairman has got a lot of issues. I mean, he's got videos which we have seen, everybody has seen them. So he's someone who can easily be manipulated, and he has been easily manipulated in the last few years. So what the government is trying to do is to bring in someone from PTI like Shehbaz Gill, or someone the likes of Shehbaz Gill, or kind of like some Jayala from PTI who can come in as NAB chairman, and then they can use that to basically further their own political agenda against the opposition. So and I think this is primarily the motivation behind getting this ordinance out, because already, if you look at in the last month, the appointment of the chairman of Election Commission was something that was done in consultation with the opposition, but that experiment has not gone well for PTI. So Imran Khan knows that he cannot stay in government if there's a free and impartial accountability bureau being run, which is not being controlled by the executive. So keeping that in mind, I think what he's trying to do is basically manipulate the whole process by issuing an ordinance, and then trying to appoint some loyalist or PTI loyalist or some really hardcore PTI worker into as a chairman of the government. And we have already seen it happening. I mean,
but
brother
of
there
is, of course, in fact, you are, and your senior leadership, as far as Shehbaz Sharif Saab is concerned, Mariam Nawaz is concerned, Nawaz Sharif is concerned, they're all implicated in investigations with the NAB. There's no denying that, right?
Yeah, there is no denying that, because I mean, we have a history in which cases are made against the opposition in order to satisfy the ego of some certain quarters. And that has been happening in the last 74 years. I mean, we have seen that happening with Fatima Jinnah, we have seen that happening with many politicians, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and then there are many. So I mean, having a politically motivated corruption case against a politician is like having a parking ticket.
So you're saying that shouldn't lead to any issue as far as consultation, and according to the Supreme Court, meaningful consultation between the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister is concerned?
This process brings impartiality in the whole scenario. If you take that out, then you basically get someone like, recently the government appointed the brother of Fawaz Chaudhary as the prosecutor in NAB. So what they want is something like that happening with the chairman NAB as well, because Imran Khan did not won the 2018 general election. I mean, he has been manipulating the whole thing to get into power, and then now he's manipulating the system to stay in power.
Okay, so let me come back to you. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Faisal Kareem Kundi. Kundi sir, you agree as your political party. What's your narrative? What's your take on the extension? There are reports that the government plans to bring a bill extending the tenure of the chairman of NAB. What's your take on this?
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Mahrukh, I don't know what government plan is, but which I have heard from Minister of Law and Justice. He was saying that there is no such plan of government yet to give extension to Chairman NAB. But if they want to give extension to Chairman NAB, I think it will not be. We will not be supporting it. Pakistan People's Party will not be supporting this. This government, PTI government, was claiming that Chairman NAB has been appointed by a previous leader of the House and leader of the opposition when the PPP was in opposition and PMLN was in the government. And now, whoever we have appointed, PTI thinks that he is a very good person for this post. But we want anybody, we want anybody who should be doing accountability across the board. There should be no political victimization. We think that this person is doing political victimization. NAB chairman is totally working in the hands of the government, and they're just doing political victimization. We say start inquiries against Pakistan People's Party, but there should be across the board accountability. We don't believe if there is any bad person or bad person in my party, you should sentence him, you should hang him, whatever. But the thing is that who said that there are totally clean people in PTI? They have got a lot of scandals in their government. Recently, they have changed petroleum advisor also. There's a lot of question mark on different projects which PTI has launched. So these things are question mark. When Chairman NAB says that I want to do accountability of political parties who have ruled for 30 years. What is this? What is he saying about? If government is sitting, if there is an 8 years government in KPK and then a 3-year government in federal, don't you think that there will be scandals against them? We as a party from KPK, PPP, we went to Chairman NAB for on BRT cases. There is no result from Chairman NAB. There is a lot of scandals going on. But thing is, you can't find anybody suitable for this post in whole Pakistan. We only just need this person to be the Chairman NAB. So something fishy in it. Because why do you want this person to be given extension where there is no rule for extension?
Fair enough. That's a very important question. It's very relevant. Let me go to Jawad Sahab with this. Jawad Sahab, why? I'm sure that there are other honest men in Pakistan. I'm sure that if the government chooses, to look, they will be able to find. Why go for an extension in this case?
Mahrukh, I think performance is always a biggest factor when we are appointing somebody or we intend to give extension to anybody. And if you look at the performance of NAB in last 3 years, it's like they have collected over 500 billion rupees, and in before that 17 years they only collected like 190 billion. So you can well imagine that the combination of NAB and support from the government, obviously the government organization, investigative organizations like FIA and other organizations who obviously facilitate any investigation by the NAB. So this definitely shows that the collection of ill-gotten money is much better than what it used to be in the past. And the government always would like to have continuity of such accountability, which is in the interest of Pakistan. Just a few comments, like Faisal Kareem Kundi Sahab, he said that Pakistan People's Party will not be supporting this extension, but I can tell you they will not be resisting as well. And as far as
why do you say that?
Please
elaborate.
No, I would not like. I give a full stop here, and I leave it to the coming days, and you perhaps will be able to see. On the other hand, Senator Afnanullah, he said that it's a conflict of interest for PTI because of Malam Jabba case or BRT. If you ask anybody from the PML leadership, perhaps majority of them would not know what is Malam Jabba case, I mean, where it is, against whom it is, and what is BRT case, I mean, what are the objections or what are the crimes they might have seen in the BRT case. The conflict of interest, definitely it is when the consultation is being made, when the leader of the opposition who is directly implicated into a NAB case.
So would you be okay with consulting with someone else? Not that the law at this time allows for that, but I mean if there were to be a change.
I just gave the example because PMLN obviously is the biggest opposition party in National Assembly, and combined opposition is obviously.
But I think all their first tier leadership is then implicated.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So that makes it a more pertinent case of conflict of interest. That you will be consulting the same people who are implicated by NAB.
But hasn't there always been the case? Let me come back to you. Senator Saab, isn't it true that at one time or another across the board political parties, the scenario hasn't been so different, but there has been consultation. So what makes it so different this time round?
I mean, the main thing which is different is that there is an incompetent government who has been put in power by certain quarters, and they don't know how to govern. They have messed up the economy, they have messed up the social fabric of the society, and now they are on the process to further damage the accountability process. Because I mean, the main thing that I see in this whole scenario is that Imran Khan is only interested in just staying in power. He doesn't care about the law. He doesn't care about the people of Pakistan. He doesn't care about anyone or anything but staying in power. And for that, he will go to any distance, and he will break the law. He will bend the law. He will do whatever he can to just to stay in power for as long as he can. And this is just another episode in this whole unfortunate series of events that you see, I mean, I don't have.
Would it be more convenient at this time to just get somebody new and not extend? I mean, for the government also, and they may take that path. I mean, that's not at this time. I mean, there's no confirmation that may not happen.
I believe that the existing chairman of NAB is a very controversial person. He himself is a very corrupt person. He has not declared his assets for years when he became the chairman NAB, and now it's been 4 years and we don't know how much wealth he has accumulated. So someone like him who's got videos all over the internet, who has already got a lot of corruption allegations against him, should not be even considered for the position of chairman NAB. However, he has served the PTI government very well, and he has served the interest of Imran Khan very well. So these are the two things which go in his favor, and that is why you see that they want to change the law for the chairman NAB. They want to, they want to do this ordinance for him, special ordinance for him, just for Javed Iqbal Saab to stay in power, to stay as the chairman NAB. So these are something which anyone who is a third party or who is an impartial person, you can clearly see that all these moves are being done to basically keep the PTI government in power and to
Let me come back to you. Kundi Saab, Jawad Saab has categorically said that as far as the PVP is concerned, they, according to him, will not be opposing a re-election or reappointment, so to speak, of the chairman NAB at this time. Do you think there's a chance that might happen? Can you hear me?
I don't think so. There is any chance that Pakistan People's Party will be favoring this chairman NAB to be given extension or his tenure should be extended. Where Jawad Sahib has said that chairman NAB or NAB has done a very good job and excellent job regarding recovery. My question to Mr. Jawad Sahib is, can you tell us that your leader was always criticizing PPP and PMLN that they have done this to the country and they have that to the country. How many people have been sentenced from PPP or PMLN? Regarding recovery, I think they have made NAB institution as a institution of institution which are taking kidnapping for ransom. They are kidnapping people, getting deal. Whoever is doing deal with them, then they give some percentage of their corruption, and then they are out, and the other money is being paid. So don't make NAB institution this. We want across the board accountability. Why are they elected for accountability? Why they want this chairman to be extended? Like in previous times, you were saying that they have been brought by PVP, and if you think that we have brought such good people, and you should appreciate us that we have brought good people in institution. Like now, if you see about this election commission, they have brought the chairman election commission, and now when he is telling them that this things which we have passed in the parliament is not legal, then they are criticizing that institution also, that we don't know about anything. They think that they know everything, and opposition or institution they don't know. So let the time come.
Let me come back to you.
And then let the time come, and then we will discuss with Jawad Sahab that either we have voted for it or we didn't vote for it.
Ji, Jawad Sahab.
First of all, Mahrukh, you might have observed that both times Kundi Sahab, he used the word, we will not support, we will not favor. But what I said was basically they will not resist this extension of Chairman NAB. So these are two different things. Secondly, irony is that same Chairman NAB, which is now being labeled as corrupt and serving to PTI, he was appointed by PMLN government in consultation with Pakistan People's Party, who was in the opposition. So the question comes to my mind that when these two political parties were appointing Chairman NAB, was it the purpose that Chairman NAB will be serving to their cause, to their personal interest, and today, if they think that he is serving to PTI, so is it the change of heart which they are objecting, or there is something else? Because this Chairman NAB, it was appointed by these two political parties. So if you could not find any objection while appointing the same Chairman NAB, so why to object today that there is an extension for the same Chairman NAB?
But is there a chance that, I mean, if you move for an extension and move for an amendment saying that there will be, perhaps as far as this chairman is concerned, there will be, to appoint him, you want to give it certain time as far as reappointment is concerned. That consultative time, it will allow for, this chairman to continue till anybody new comes in.
First of all, the decision has not yet been made. I mean, you know it, that it is under consideration by the government. So I'm not in a position to precisely tell you that whether there will be a consultation or what kind of a limited consultation. I mean, this is one proposal which is being considered but not yet approved and finalized.
So there are chances you think that someone new can be appointed also?
Yes, why not? Till the time decision is not made, the appointment of a new Chairman NAB and the extension of the current Chairman NAB, both are the possibilities.
Okay, let me go to Senator Afnan. Senator Sahab, is there any chance that if the opposition was consulted, Shehbaz Sharif was consulted, there could be some sort of agreement on this issue?
I think there can certainly be an agreement on this particular issue, but as I explained before, the Chief Election Commissioner was appointed by this government, and they were criticizing him. You must have heard the allegations, wild allegations by Azam Swati and Imran Khan himself. So this, they had a bad experience in appointing Chief Election Commissioner, and following up on that experience, they are basically not going to consult the opposition because if you're consulting with the opposition, we're not gonna let someone like Shehbaz Gill or Fawad Chaudhry or the likes of some loyalist PTI guy to become the NAB chairman. Imran Khan knows this very well, and that is why you see this resistance, and that is why you see this why they are trying to bypass the whole process. But I think even if they come up with an ordinance, we will go to the courts and we will make the appointment of the NAB chairman illegal, because the ordinance can only last 120 days. After that, even if they appoint someone new, that person will no longer be the chairman NAB as per the law. So I think this is an exercise in futility. If this government spend more time on bringing comfort to the people of Pakistan by controlling inflation and by generating employment, that would be much better. But unfortunately, this hybrid regime has failed in every sense. They failed economically, they failed socially, they failed from a political meaning. I mean, and they are just trying to buy time right, left, and center just to survive for a few months or a few years. And that is what my reading is. But I mean, we are going to resist it. We are going to resist it in Senate, in National Assembly, in the courts.
But Senator, if you resist it, according to the government says that if you resist it or if you go to court, what happens is that things are in limbo then. As far as fresh, NAB can't have fresh prosecutions against anyone. Of course, the ones that are in place will continue. But in the absence of a chairman, things will clearly not be functional. Is that what the opposition wants?
I mean, we don't want a PTI.
I mean, of course, it would respectfully allow you some sort of breathing space, because at this time, of course, you are facing the NAB prosecution for all intents and purposes. All your leadership is.
And more recently, they have appointed the brother of Fawad Chaudhary as the prosecutor in NAB. This just basically shows their intent. I think it is better. I mean, if the government doesn't behave in a legal way, then it is better not to have a NAB chairman than have someone the likes of Shahbaz Gill or Fawad Chaudhary as the chairman NAB. I mean, we are going to resist that, and we are going to make sure that it doesn't happen. And even if they try to bypass the law, we're going to go to the courts, and we're going to also resist this move in Senate and National Assembly as well. I think this is, as I said before, this will be an exercise in futility, because you remember when the whole EVM thing started, they said we don't need the opposition, we're going to just pass an ordinance and then that would be it. And eventually they passed an ordinance and that didn't work, and then they passed a law from National Assembly and that didn't work because the Senate didn't pass it. So with this government, you need to basically, it's like a child. It behaves like in a childish way. So you basically you work with them, and eventually they will realize that these moves that they're coming up with, they're just futile. The law is very clear, and the law says that you have to consult with the leader of the opposition, and there's no other way.
Right. Okay, let me come back to you. Kundi Sahab, if that happens, if there is no agreement, and that's what it seems like for all intents and purposes, as far between the government and the opposition, and things are in limbo, of course, new references, order investigations, detentions, etc., will not happen during the time that limbo persists. Do you think the PPP can then play a role, of some sort in trying to get the opposition and the government to, perhaps form an agreement on one particular name or a course of action even?
Mahrukh, thing is that there is a rule that when the chairman or whoever is going, when it comes to chairman, you have to leader of the house has to consult leader of the opposition, and then they have to come up with three names, and then they might agree on one name. So when Prime Minister or leader of the house will write a letter to the leader of the opposition, then he will definitely consult opposition parties, and then after that they will give three names. And I think opposition and government should give these type of names which can be negotiated, and there should be a person who should come as a chairman. I think there should not be like this type of deadlock that government or opposition should not agree on it. Right now,
there are 2 weeks left. I mean, there's very little time at this time.
I think they should not prolong this thing. If they want, they should write a letter to leader of the opposition. You can't say this. Like I've heard about the cabinet members who are saying that we don't want to write a letter to leader of the opposition because he has got cases of NAB against him. And if you look at it, that there is penalties against Prime Minister also, leader of the House also. The thing is, you have to come up. They should write letter before time to leader of the opposition that he should start consulting opposition parties, and he should come up with 3 names. And government will come up with 3 names, and then they should sit together and they can come with one person who the opposition and the government should think that he is the right person. He can do this job properly, and he will do accountability across the board.
But that would be the ideal scenario. But if that doesn't happen, we are looking at potentially an institution like the National Accountability Bureau, in a limbo, so to speak, where the references can't have new references or investigations, detentions. Things will be sort of stuck. Do you think that that's it will suit the opposition, which is what I asked Senator Afnanullah Khan also?
No, we don't
because of
want
course, I mean, they're this time facing every day.
When there is things written in the constitution, or there is a rule for something or some position, then don't see there should be things going stuck. I think there should be they should sit together, the government and opposition parties should together and come up with one name. Why should we allow some other person or some other institution that they should decide about this? Why can't they sit together, and in this whole country we can't find one person who should be a proper person for the accountability or chairman?
Regarding the comments, by Kundi Saab and...
he's saying that to be fair, he's saying that why do things have to go to a third institution? When you talk about going to court on this issue, that is what it would mean. Instead of the government and the opposition coming to some sort of agreement. Okay, if you think about it, if the opposition is not okay with this extension, there is this whole debate about the extensional culture also, and why we cannot have new people instead of extending the tenure of all people already serving. That itself has been there. It's still there in Pakistan for a long time. We've been arguing that. So why not do that?
Mahrukh, like I already answered this thing, that the appointment of a new chairman NAB or extension of the current chairman NAB, both are possibilities, and nothing has been decided as yet. And the both proposals, I think both of them, they have their merits. If we appoint a new chairman with the consultation of opposition, the only objection or my observation to that was that it is going to be a conflict of interest, that you are consulting a person who is under the investigation of NAB, and now you are going to ask him who should be the chairman NAB.
Isn't there past precedent for it? It's invariably the leadership of one political party, PTI being in power the first time, but the two other main political parties have invariably been under some investigation or the other, and there is a precedent for consultation nevertheless.
You can recall any such situation in the past. I don't recall. The appointment of chairman NAB perhaps was never in such kind of scenario where the top leadership of one political party, either it is convicted or he is undergoing an investigative cases, the top leadership I'm talking about. So this kind of situation is unique, and you should also remember that in the past such kind of situations were handled through compromise, or the term which we very frequently use, NRO. So this kind of deadlock never came, and this deadlock is because PTI does not believe in any NRO or any compromise in the accountability process. So this is a unique situation which has never occurred before.
We've been talking about NAB reform for a while. Of course, the government and the opposition could again, and by the opposition primarily the PMLN, there wasn't able to be any agreement on reforming the NAB law. But do you think if that had been possible, we would not be where we are today? The questions like this, whether there can be extension, whether there should, the tenure itself, whether a new person has to be appointed. All of those things would have been taken care of if that could have been possible. But again, you know, the opposition and the government have not been able to have any kind of conducive working relationship, unfortunately.
Mahrukh, take the example of reforms in the election process. I mean, government has prepared some reforms and they are presenting their case in parliament, I mean to opposition, inviting opposition to debate it, but you have seen that how opposition has reacted to the reforms proposed by the government. So the problem with the government, the challenge with the government is that we would like to have reforms, but the reforms need a majority, a two-third majority in the parliament, and whenever we take up something to bring such kind of change, we do not see the cooperation from the opposition, and that is why I don't think so that in case of NAB the situation would have been different than what we are facing in the in case of election reforms. We'll be facing the same reaction from the opposition. So perhaps it would not have served any purpose.
But Jawad sir, when you refuse to even consult with the leader of the opposition, you know, whatever the reason may be, I mean, there's hardly, that doesn't leave room for a very conducive relationship. Let me come back to you. Senator Saab, you know, again, the same question to you. As far as reform of NAB law is concerned, it wasn't only the government. We saw the opposition also and the PMLN also categorically refusing to be a part of that NAB reform process. It started, but then it never took off. If there could have been some sort of leeway, some sort of, you know, headway as far as that reform is concerned, then again, like Kundi Saab is saying, you know, for an issue like NAB law again to go to the court, the Supreme Court again is again not you know, great in terms of a democracy, in terms of a government and opposition working together, and that hasn't been, we haven't seen that happen in the last 3 years. 2 to go.
I agree with you from the point of view that because of the immaturity of PTI government and the immaturity of Khan, PTI government has not been able to develop consensus at any level. And I will disagree with Ahmed Jawad when he says that he needs 2/3 majority to do all kind of legislation. 18th Amendment was passed through a consensus, and you can only do consensus when you do compromises. And as far as EVM bill is concerned, we went out of our way. We accepted about 23 proposals from the government, but the government was not even willing to accept one of our proposals in that particular bill. And to say that the Commission has never supported any bill in the National Assembly and the Senate is 100% incorrect. For instance, when the Civil Protection Bill came in, we supported it, and there are many dozens and dozens of cases, bills that have come into that we have supported when we got merit. It's only that we cannot support Imran Khan's personal agenda. I mean, the state of Pakistan is not built to support the personal agenda of Imran Khan or the party's agenda of PTI. I mean, if they are unable to develop consensus, it's because they are immature and they don't know how politics work, and they believe that, you know, they believe in the empire as well, and they think that, I mean, because of the empire everything is going to be fine, and that is unfortunate, and that is why you see that, you know, every now and then there is some big issue that should not be there in the first place. I mean, this should not be even something that we should be discussing. It's a very clear process. The Prime Minister should consult with the opposition leader, and then there should be consensus being developed between the two, and then whoever is the names come in, he becomes the NAB chairman. But because of the childish behavior of Imran Khan, we time and again come on the same route again and again and again, because he is not someone who is a Democrat. You know, he's not someone who came into power through a democratic process. I mean, he came into power through the support of the empire and and some certain parties.
I mean, the last general election would be, according to them, would be proof that whether he came through or not, and your narrative of selected and all of that. Keeping that aside, if you want democracy to work, there has to be some relationship between the opposition and the government, which is what we've now been talking about for 3 years straight. Kundi Saab, your comments as far as NAB reform law is concerned. Of course, now if the amendment goes through and the government does move towards the amendment, they will still be getting what they want in the absence of that kind of agreement. So wouldn't it have been better if there had been some agreement?
We have already talked to the government, our committee for this NAB reforms. We have already submitted, Mahrukh has submitted recommendation by Pakistan People's Party, but this government is not willing to sit with opposition at any cost. It's not just NAB, it's on any issue, whether it's India issue, whether it's Kashmir issue, whether it's national security meeting, whether it's Afghanistan issue, whatever issue is going on, this government is reluctant to sit with the opposition. So that's why I don't think so that government will be again sitting with the opposition parties for these reforms. So in part there was.
But if they go down, if they move towards an amendment, then they do have the numbers to get that through. So whether they then choose to do away with reappointment or the tenure of the NAB chairman, all of those things the government will manage to do unless the opposition goes to court, which again will be a state of limbo. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for being with us. Ahmed Jawad, thank you for joining us today. Senator Afnanullah Khan, thank you for being with us. Professor Kareem Kundi, thank you for joining us today. As far as the issue of reappointment, extension of NAB chairman is concerned, it's not new in the sense that it's one of those issues that again highlights the absence of a conducive working relationship between the government and the opposition. Regardless of any reform, when we talk about electoral reform, which is again one of those things which is a bone of contention between the government and the opposition at this time, there doesn't seem to be any issue where the government and the opposition have managed to sit together and come to some sort of agreement. And there has always been either recourse to the Supreme Court or finding, recourse in an amendment through the Parliament, all the other measures or ordinances, all of those. And unfortunately, that has been the way things have worked for the last 3 years. One certainly hopes that things will change, but the next 2 years seem to be headed in the same direction. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.